is up, guys? This is Matt Cox back here with another episode of the Saucetown Investor. We talk a lot about real estate on this podcast, and we're certainly going to do that today. But this one is going to be a little more something that you can probably apply across if you're a business owner. It's kind of more business centric than just real estate specific. And what I want to talk about is the idea of culture, company culture. You hear about it; it's a buzzword all the time. If you're in the W-2 world, you're going through interviews. You'll say, "Hey, what's your company culture like?" And sometimes it's, you get a really good answer on it. Sometimes you get something really cliche about how we have, kombucha on tap and we like to play ping pong during breaks or something. But it is a really important piece. And it's something that, in my opinion, it's pretty easy to build when you're small. But as you grow, it gets harder and harder. You have less control over your business as a whole. You might start hiring managers who have to manage your employees. But it's something that has to come from the top down. I'm not a big company, but one of the things that we have done, that I've created, is I actually made a living document called Saucetown Culture. And the way you want to look at this is it's almost like a lens a pair of glasses that you're staring through, that all decisions are filtered through these lenses, if that makes sense. So I'm going to share what our Saucetown Culture, the pieces to Saucetown Culture are with you guys. If you're a business owner, you can certainly make your own. These are things that I think are important, that I think are very important and are important to me, and that I want to instill in myself, my company, my employees, etc. So I'm going to read these to you guys. One thing you will notice is I say them in the positive form. So for example, our first Saucetown Culture item is that we practice extreme responsibility from the CEO down. Now notice I said it, we practice extreme responsibility. I didn't say we don't make excuses. So we use it in the positive form. Now what does that mean? It does mean we don't make excuses, right? One of my biggest pet peeves, whether it, growing up in business, sports, whatever, is people who always have an excuse for everything. I think excuses are toxic. It's a way of passing off responsibility. It's a way of always having a cop-out and never, frankly, it's a cop-out to avoid ever having to improve on yourself. So, and notice I said from the CEO down, one thing, I'm not perfect, but one thing I try to always do is if there's an issue and I think I bear some of the fault for it, aka, and guys, one thing to get used to, if you're the CEO, everything is your fault. I always laugh when people are bitching and complaining about someone that they hired screwing up, and then you ask the question, "Oh, really? Yeah. So your new hire it sucks. They're terrible. Who hired them?" And that kind of stops people in their tracks. So set the tone. If you're the boss, you get used to that. Everything is your fault. And if you're making excuses, do not be surprised when everyone under you is doing the same thing. So the second one, we embrace mistakes as long as we learn from them. No, that's not from a children's textbook. I know it sounds a little bit corny, but the point of it is that mistakes are the norm, guys. Like, you are constantly going to screw up. Your employees are going to screw up. And it's just, I everybody's different on this. I don't come from a place, I don't think it helps employees to freak out on them when they do something that's an honest mistake. Now, if they do something sketchy or, dishonest or whatever, we're going to get to that. But if it's an honest mistake, okay, here's what happened. How do we prevent it from happening again? An example might be something like, this tenant hasn't paid rent for 2 months. Angela, you were supposed to collect their rent. Oh, well, actually, Matt, she wouldn't say it that way, but actually, we don't have a system for this. Boom, that's back to number one, right? At the end of the day, that's my fault. We don't have a system for it. Now, if we put a system in place that says, Angela, you were supposed to send a late rent notice on the 15th, what happened and she didn't do it, that's something we're going to come back to and go, okay, Angela, here's the deal. We have this system in place. Why didn't you send this? Oh, I just got sidetracked. I was too busy. Okay, great. Not great, but okay. How are we going to prevent it? I'm going to put a recurring event in my calendar on the 15th every month that reminds me to check if there are any tenants who haven't paid. That was a little bit of an obscure example, but you get the point. Learn from the mistakes. The next one is we communicate in both a direct and respectful way. Translation, we don't do passive aggressive. And these kind of go hand in hand. I'm just going to read you another one of our bullet points. We handle important discussions on the phone or in person as opposed to email or text. Guys, you can apply this one. You can apply this one to your entire life. If you have kids or, with your wife or girlfriend or husband or boyfriend, family, friends, whatever. We all know how it goes. I mean, if you go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, look at how big of assholes everyone is to each other. And you know why? It's because they are hiding behind a screen. Everybody's a hard ass. Everybody's a gangster when they have a screen between them. People, when they talk in person, for the most part, are generally pretty pleasant. And that is why that's why that one exists. Okay, we communicate in a direct and respectful way, and then we handle important discussions on the phone or in person. We do not text them. We do not send those passive-aggressive emails that if you've been in corporate, we are all so familiar with. The next one, we operate in an honest way with coworkers and customers. That's a zero tolerance. If you do something sketchy, if you lie to me, or lie to one of your coworkers, it's just that's a non-starter. Now, when it comes to customers, we do not lie to anybody. Okay, if we're in a business where we're often, we're acquiring real estate, right? So we're often in negotiations that could be classified as heated negotiations. We're going to battle for every dollar that we can get in most cases, not always, but the point is we are going to be in a place where we're negotiating against people, and we're going to do that in a competitive way to try to do what's best for our company. We are a for-profit company, and the way we negotiate is going to reflect that. But we are never going to lie to anybody. If we're buying a house and I have, my acquisitions guy is lying to sellers about what, the nature of our contract, or telling them, I've seen people do this, like telling them, oh no, don't talk to an attorney, don't do this, just doing sketchy stuff. A, it's the wrong thing to do, and B, it's going to get me sued. So honesty is everything in this business. Zero tolerance for lying. Again, this kind of goes with the first one, or our second one about embracing mistakes. But we use mistakes as a way to build better systems, and it's kind of a flow chart here. It goes mistake to what did we learn, to what can we change, and how do we implement. I'll say that one more time. So a mistake happens in your business. The next step is, what did we learn from this mistake? Next step is, what can we change so that it doesn't occur again? And how do we implement that? I don't need to recap it. I just use the example of, here's another example. We had a deal where in real estate, obviously, when you make an offer, you have to put down earnest money. And I forgot to put down earnest money because I just got sidetracked and have a million things going on. So that's my mistake. That's Matt's mistake. So what did I learn? What I learned is that I have too much stuff going on, and simply having it in my head to try to remember to send an earnest money payment is not sustainable, especially as we get larger and larger. So what was the change that we made? I've had my assistant now now send me a message immediately after we go under contract that lists the property address, the amount of the earnest money, and when it's due. And then she sends it. If I don't send it that day, she sends it again the next day. And since we've implemented this, the stuff gets paid right away. We've never had a situation like that again. So that's the system. Mistake, learn, change, and implement. And then the last one here. This is really important. And guys, I'm not great at this, like especially early on when it comes to hiring and retaining talent. You need to create a place where people's goals and dreams, if they're not necessarily being met, but that there is a path toward them being met. So we create meaningful KPIs, that's key performance indicators, and goals that help our employees to reach their goals and earn more money. And this is an important piece here because this is a mistake I made when I was first starting out with hiring. Is I'm pretty money oriented. I love what I do, but I do like earning more money. And I made the mistake of thinking that was what everybody was into. A really good business guy I know, he actually owns a farming business, but a lot of the same principles apply, guys. Business is business. He talked to me about this, and because I was having some trouble with HR stuff, he gave not HR in the sense of like complaints, and HR in the sense of hiring the right people. And he gave me a book to read on it. He talked to me about it. And he said, Matt, like you're applying the way you feel and thinking that it's how everybody feels. So because you're into money, you think that that's what matters to all your employees. And that's not true. Some of my employees, like my acquisitions guy, he's very money oriented. And frankly, that's what you want with an acquisitions guy, because he gets paid a base, but a lot of his pay comes from commission. So you want that guy to be driven by money. But then someone like my assistant, she definitely wants a path to make more money, and she has KPIs that allow her to get a raise. She got a raise this year. She'll have another one, assuming she hits her goals, coming up soon. But she has other stuff that's important to her too. She wants the ability. She likes people management, so she wants to manage a team. So we've been implementing ways for her to have people under her who report to her and get her into almost more of kind of an operations role. That stuff is important to her. So remember, you got to create these KPIs, but don't assume everyone else is like you. So create meaningful KPIs and goals that help your employees to reach their goals and earn more money. And again, goals and money are not always the same thing. Okay, they might have things they want to accomplish or roles they want to take on in the company that have nothing to do with money. So anyway, guys, that is Saucetown Culture. If you're a business owner of any kind, not just real estate, I encourage you to make some kind of document like that as soon as possible. Even if you're a solopreneur at this point, just start building that out, and you can always tweak it later. So anyway, thank you guys. This has been the Saucetown Investor.